Well, welcome. I laugh sometimes when I say the Milford Medical Center. It was the little red Milford Hospital that grew. You know, when I think of it today, you know, I refer to Uncle Phil and Uncle Ed, you know, Ed Kelly running the hospital, Phil Sermacoli running the docks, as Uncle Phil and Uncle Ed, because they've built one heck of a family here. And it really does feel like a family, or a large onion. Because every time I think I know the services and all the special things that are offered at the medical center, I peel the layer of onion and there's a new one. Something super done for our community. Tonight, we're going to talk about, I peeled back the onion and I found the Snuggle Squad. Amazing group of people and an amazing service that I hope we can bring some understanding to the residents of the area. But let's start with introductions.
Thanks, Al. My name is Elaine Willey, and I'm the Director of Volunteer Services at Milford Regional. And I've been there for almost 18 years now.
See, and that's the amazing part, because when I look at the dedication, the staff, I've said so many times when my sainted mother was, they detected intestinal cancer. Dr. Cadis was there 11, 12 years ago. Yeah. And my mother goes to see Mona. Yeah. You know, it's not a doctor that's been changed 10 times, it's been the same one. I'm always amazed when I hear, well, I've only been there 15 years, or, you know, it's like, my God, it's wonderful for the continuity, but let's continue.
I'm Rose Galini Hayes. I am the Director of the Maternal Child Health Services at Milford, and I have been at the hospital for almost 40 years. Me and my team got together and started thinking about ways to improve the care of some of our patients, and we'll talk about the Snuggle Squad.
And how long?
Almost 40 years. I started out in dietary and in high school. Graduated from nursing school and was a cardiac nurse for several years.
So you've been there when it was the little red Milford Hospital, the little hospital that could.
And yeah, I do remember all those.
Hi, my name is Mary Cohen. I am a Snuggle volunteer, and I've been with the Snuggle Squad for about 9 months now. Mm-hmm.
And I'm Doug Hewlig. I'm from Hopkinton. My wife and I have lived there for 35 years, and I'm retired. Our children are grown. And I found out about the Snuggle Squad just before I retired. My wife had mentioned that she knew a colleague who every day before he went to work in Boston went to City and snuggled babies, and that idea stuck with me. And it wasn't until actually I retired when one of my colleagues said, I know exactly what I'm going to do when I retire. I'm going to cuddle babies. And the idea came back to me, and it led me to a conversation with Elaine about the program, and I've been with it. Actually, I started snuggling in January, so I've been with it about the same time as
So let's
Mary
take
has.
a step back. What's a snuggle?
Well, our best practice team on the maternity unit realized that we had a group of patients that we weren't really meeting their needs, and part of it was the opioid crisis that we're dealing with. Many patients are in recovery, and their babies would come in substance exposed and have to stay with us for a lot longer. So mom may be discharged and still in her program, but still the baby needs to stay a lot longer. And putting those babies in the nursery didn't seem like the best place for them because it's loud. There are other babies in there, maybe sick babies in there, and those babies need quiet. They need to be held. They need to be consoled. And having them in a loud nursery wasn't the place for them. So we talked about what can we do to meet this need. And I met with Elaine and talked about other places that had more of a program like this in the intensive care units, not so much for this population. And we talked about it, and we got together with a group of staff members and created an education and a training, and some of these snugglers came in and interviewed, and here we go. They basically, when the mom's not there, they are trained to care for that baby, hold that baby, console the baby, find things that maybe the baby likes to be in the swing, so they'll put the baby in the swing and stay with the baby. Maybe they just need to be held, fed, changed, and when mom comes back, if she needs more help or is exhausted and needs to rest, the Snuggler's there to help her. We've recently expanded the program because we felt like some of our moms who have had long labors or who have been in the hospital and are at a point where they've been awake a lot and they need a break, that the Snuggles could go in and assist them as well. So we've sort of expanded it to all of our patients, just to be more family friendly and allowing mom that little bit of a break so the baby doesn't have to go in the nursery. The Snuggler can go in the room and sit and snuggle that baby and keep them
Now,
calm.
when my daughter was born, it was right in Virginia where they were borrowing babies out of nurseries.
Oh.
You know, so I ended up sleeping at the door. When my daughter went into the nursery so my darling bride could get some sleep, it was my job to go lay against the door so that any activity, it was a long night because the nurses would go in, take care of babies. I'd wake up every 20 minutes, but then you'd look, not mine, okay. But that's gone away now. So it's not really a security thing anymore, is it?
Yeah. No, not so much. Most of the babies, I would say majority of the babies stay in the rooms with mom anyway. The nursery is more for storage at this point because we want babies to be with their moms and
Like the supplies and stuff.
yeah, supplies. And so even the babies that don't need extra treatment or extra care, they're all in their rooms with their moms most of the time, so that they don't really leave the. And this is another reason why the Snuggler can go in the room and sit with mom and not have to leave and have the baby in the
Now,
nursery.
when my grandson was born, the fight we had is you have 4 grandparents who believe, okay, I've put up with 30 years of my daughter to get my grandson or my granddaughter. So what do you mean you want to hold? I mean, my poor daughter was like, do I get to hold my son? It's like, no, that's my grandson. So the fight we had in the room was always, my daughter wanted some time with her son. And, trying to split it up amongst the 4 of us, it seemed like there wasn't enough baby time.
Sure.
I didn't think my grandson knew he had feet for the first 6-8 months because he never really went down. He was always in somebody's arms. But there's a large percentage, in my understanding, of children, babies, that don't have 4 grandparents fighting over them. What kind of percentage need help?
That's hard to say. We, right now especially, we offer the service to everybody, but there is a consistent need for somebody to have a Snuggler on board. So you have some of the statistics.
I mean, just gut feel, is
Statistics,
it 10%? Is it 50%?
I would say 10.
Yeah.
I would say
It's
10.
not the majority. So I want to tell a little bit about the wonderful people who volunteered. So when Rose and I were talking about the program, really it generated out of these really caring nurses saying, what can we do to enhance the care for these newborns and to support the moms too? And through my role as Director of Volunteer Services, I'm consistently meeting with incredible people in our community who are caring, skilled, and want to help in very meaningful ways. So I knew we wouldn't have a problem. And we piloted the program. It's 1 year in May. It's just been just over a year. In the first group, there were 8 nurses who, some were new grad nurses, some were nurses and did this as well, and a couple of teachers and a few. And then we had a second training, and it went really well. And we had a second training where Doug and Mary came on board, and then we sort of enhanced. The training is really thorough, and you might want to speak to that at some point. And really a lot of wonderful people doing this. Some nights, and they can speak to this more, there are days there isn't a need, but the volunteers are available. Like Rose said, we're really trying to, the programs always evolve to let all the moms know that this is available. It might be that they want to take a shower and someone can hold their baby, like instead of someone guarding the nursery, just hold the baby in the room, the Snuggle Squad volunteer. So we're looking at enhancing some of those if there's not a baby who needs that Snuggle Squad all the time. Right now, volunteers come in either 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. or 10 p.m. to 1 a.m. and allow that break for the mom to maybe get some uninterrupted
10
sleep.
p.m., you wake up the babies to snuggle them?
They don't
Babies
wake
are
up any
awake at
babies.
10
It
p.m.
allows the mom a little chance to rest if they want, if they've had
Yeah,
difficult times.
We
So,
had
um,
3 weeks on my oldest and 2 weeks on my youngest till we learned that, like, my oldest would sleep 7 straight hours.
you're
We
lucky.
made the mistake of putting her to bed at 8 at night, because then at 3 in the morning she woke up.
Yeah.
But we learned that if we put her to bed at 8 and then woke her up at 11 and topped her off,
Yeah.
right? Okay, time to eat. Then she'd go to bed at 11 and wouldn't wake up till 6. So, you know, for 3 weeks it was less than a pleasant experience, especially, and this is terribly sexist and I apologize, for fathers. Because all I could do is go get the baby
Oh, yeah.
across the room and bring it to my darling bride, bring her to my darling bride to be fed. I loved bottles, because all of a sudden, we were on equal terms. I could feed my daughter.
Yeah.
It was the greatest feeling when we're in the rocking chair and I could look at my darling bride and say, shh, baby's feeding. She's mine now. But, oh, wow, so
Yeah.
there's kids up all hours of the night.
Oh, yeah. And some of these, you know, babies who are with us for a long, because they're substance exposed, they can be a little bit more irritable. They can be very sensitive to noise and stimuli. So we want to kind of keep them quiet and keep them in the room so that mom can sleep, and they just want to be held.
Substance exposed. Okay, I'm old. Talk to me in English.
So if mom had an addiction and she's in a recovery program, she may be on medication that when she's pregnant,
Oh.
the baby gets exposed to it. So then the baby has to recover from that exposure, and they're in the hospital for a lot longer.
So you got an opioid addict baby from day one.
Some of them, if mom was using illicit drugs, others are just because mother's in a treatment program. So that treatment medication that they're on affects the baby and takes them
But no
longer.
matter what, the baby is now dependent on a
Something to-
foreign chemical.
Right, right.
Oh, my Lord.
Yeah. So that's one, you know, and I think that supporting those moms so that they can be successful in learning how to care for their baby and learning how to address the irritability or the crying, and having the support of the snugglers there when they do hit a wall and they're just new from having a baby and they're exhausted and they're dealing with all the other stuff, plus they have this other struggle that they're dealing with, and having the snugglers there to just have an open heart, an open mind, even someone to talk to and to listen to, has been phenomenal.
So, Snuggler number 1. Tell me a typical Snuggle day.
Well, I usually work the night shift. I work during the day, a full-time job, so I go one night a week to Milford, and I will get there. I have to put on the scrubs and everything. You can't wear your own clothes, so you have to wear scrubs. And I'll get ready, I'll go out, I'll see if there's a, we call them NAS babies, that are the drug-addicted babies. I'll see if there's any there. If there's not, I'll see if, like, we make these kits up for when there's babies born in the hospital. So I'll go and make some kits up. I'll restock the nursery with, supplies like diapers and alcohol wipes, things like that. I'll go back out to the nurse's station. If there's no babies, I'll walk around, I'll go in and introduce myself to some of the mothers that are there having their babies. Do they need a drink? Do they need, towels? Would they like to take a shower? Is there anything I can get them if their tray of food is in there? I try to help the nurses out because these nurses are unbelievable. They're great nurses. They're very busy, and if I can get a tray of food out of the way, or if I can get a water so they're not running around getting water for the patients, I'll go do that.
That makes sense, because you want the nursing staff, if they got 2 extra minutes, spending it with the people who are sick,
Right.
who need proper, RN supervision or help, not running to get a bottle of water that we could do.
Right. Yes,
So
exactly.
that really makes sense to me,
Yeah.
to free up, because let's face it, no matter what, there's no way you can staff to a level where nurses are sitting around saying, oh, I wish I had something to do.
No, they are always busy, and they're always checking on the patients and watching the screens.
So you come in, you put on your pajamas. I mean, I love scrubs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, when we had a pharmaceutical plant and I changed everybody over to scrubs, well, I had to set an example, so I got to go to work in my pajamas also. It was the most comfortable thing I ever had.
Very comfortable.
You know, to this day, give me a choice, I'll always wear scrubs.
Yeah.
But you show up, you get in your scrubs.
If there is a baby an NAS baby, I'll go in, I'll talk to the mother, or if the baby's in the nursery, I'll go into the nursery. We try to hold the babies as much as possible, even if they're not crying. If, you know, we want to hold them, we want them to feel comfortable, secure, and you make a connection with these babies because you work with them week after week, and you get to know them. And
How do you give them back? I think I'd
That
have a
is
hard
hard.
time. And when you say week after week, I mean, I don't know that I could easily give up, you know, a baby that I've been holding for 2 weeks. Oh, God. that'd be-
well, some weeks you show up and you find out that that baby went home, so you're happy that that baby went home. That's a good thing. But also you're like, "Oh, I wonder how he's doing," you know, because, you know, as they're there longer, they're more alert, they're looking at the lights and the fixtures, and they, you know, listen to the voices, they like to be sung to. I mean, I'll talk to them about my day. I'll just, whatever I can think of, you know, I remember at Christmas, thinking about my shopping list, talking to the baby about everything, and you just walk around. Well, you don't really actually walk around. You stay in one place with the baby. You don't want to really walk around with the baby, so you stay in one place. You always have the bassinet with you, so if you have to put the baby down, it's right there. And you just make sure that they've got a clean diaper on, and if they need a bottle, you get the schedule from the nurse. You always check in with the nurse. You find out when they should be fed next. You always report, you know, I changed the diaper, it was wet. You let the nurse know what's going on with the baby at all times. And the nurses do check on you and the baby. Even if you have that baby for the whole shift, that you're always interacting with the nurse.
Doug, why? You work all day, or you're retired.
I'm
but
retired, yeah.
The snugglers who work all day,
Yep.
you know, most people get home, and after 8 or 10 hour day,
Yeah.
they're a bit tired, and they're going to now drive down to the medical center for 10 to 1 or whatever shift, or get up early in the morning to be there at 6. Why?
I think, you know, I've asked that, and I've been asked that several times also. And there's nothing very, for me, profound in the answer. But it's time and it's right to do things at a certain age, I think. And it was the time and right for me. You know, I'm the male in the group, and as I said to Elaine when I first interviewed, I found that, you know, caring is transparent to gender. If you care, then it'll come through. And I found this. There were no surprises, and there were surprises for me. No surprises in that the training we went through a day of training with Elaine and the staff. And in that way, there are very few surprises for me when I actually showed up on my first night. I worked, like Mary, I worked the night shift. And everything from the objective parts of what we were going to do, the feeding and the changing, and that was all explained. It was explained by maternity nurses who had done it, and other volunteers. So I felt well prepared, and there were very few surprises for me when I went in. And the first night, the training includes a mentor, somebody who has been through it as well. So I was very comfortable in that regard, and felt that, you know, I was there and I could purely care for that baby. The surprises were, you never know what's going to happen. I mean, when you do go in, do everything that Mary has said, and you check with the charge nurse, and there's a logbook that we all record our observations in, and the person before has done, you know, that thorough job of informing you, and you just sort of check on the environment, and so you figure you're ready. But you know, the first few times I went in, there was very little activity, and then there was a flurry of activity, and staff came from everywhere, and babies came in. I think there were 3 babies that came in almost all at once. All had been born around the same time, and all of a sudden you're very, very busy, you know, doing the things that you were taught to do. But you never know. You might see the same baby that you had seen weeks before, and your hopes are that that baby is getting better and does well and goes to a good environment. But you never know. But you know, as far as why, there's just a time. You know, when I interviewed with Elaine, I was talking about in the Catholic Church we have corporal works of mercy. And you know, there are times you kind of go through your own inventory and ask, are you doing those sorts of things? You know, what's your quotient look like? And this certainly fit into that. So.
You know, there I can see, I don't know how you'd get surprised. I mean, babies. You know, I remember when my grandson was born in my library at home, my favorite picture is he was probably 5 days old, and he would curl up under my arm and go to sleep. Eventually, my daughter would come by, and I think the technical reaction was, grr, you know, go away, leave him alone. But he's waking up. Yes, he is, and he's just fine right there. You know, to this day, when we're home, and he's almost 2 years old, when he doesn't want to go to the bathroom, the crib or whatever to go to sleep, he'll just jump up, grab his blanket, curl up under my arm. I don't care what's going on in the world. You know, Hiroshima can be a minor inconvenience in my mind at that point. Do not disturb the grandson. He's curled up in my arm, and it's like heaven. You know, and you love to say you're doing it for him. I have to admit, I'm doing it more or as much for me as for him. But now, do you see an effect? I mean, I can't imagine, I don't even know how to ask the question. If you have a baby that's been exposed, I mean, it's got to be tougher for them if they're going through withdrawals.
So we try not to use words like withdrawal or addicted, because these babies are exposed, and they do go through a transition to help them get off the medication that they were
But
exposed
Rose,
to.
I'm assuming that if they were exposed, just like the mother, the father, you know, any human, you have an unexposure period.
Absolutely.
And that
Absolutely.
doesn't seem like it would be any less unpleasant for a baby.
We do our best to help medicate the baby so that it's a gradual process, and that's why the Snuggles are involved, to help us to, like Mary had said, holding them and snuggling them helps them to feel secure. The Snugglers also do a lot with all the parents, helping them learn about safe sleep. We have a safe sleep video, so the Snugglers go around and help show them the safe sleep video, making sure babies lay on their back, that there are no toys in the crib. There are so many ways that you want to make this family successful to take this baby home. And I think the Snugglers help us do that. And you do feel like, how can I let this baby go home? We've had this baby for maybe a month or a month and a half now.
A month?
At times we have, certainly, yes. But it's sad to see them go, because you do create that bond, but it's also a success story, because we've gotten this baby now and this family to go home with the services that they need and the supports that they need and the training that they've gotten with the help of our Snugglers and the staff and social workers and others to.
See that, you know, when I read about the foster program, where people let children who need help temporarily live in their homes, I know I couldn't do it.
Yeah.
Because there's no way I would I know you're supposed to, and you're helping out the parent, and you're doing the right thing for the child, but you can't put a young kid in my house for 6 months and think that at the end I'm going to say, here's your lunch bag, have a good life.
Yeah.
It would kill me.
It's very difficult.
This program isn't like an adoption.
No,
It's-
but
it's,
still, you're
it's
talking about a
coming in
month?
for
It is
4
that,
hours, yeah.
you know, you do
Yeah,
create
they
that
do, yeah.
bond, you know, and it's sort of that struggle that you deal with.
Well,
and I hear what
Rose,
you're
you'd have to
saying.
train me on, I know it's the best thing,
That's probably
right?
Yeah,
Then I'd be the stalker who'd go by the house and say, you taking care of my baby?
yeah. I also think, too, that we have certainly the families, like I said before with this program, were their back was up. You know, what do you, how are you judging me? What do you think of me? And we needed to do a lot of education with our own staff before even bringing the Snuggles on board to get people to realize that a lot of these parents, at least these moms, have a problem. And you know, they didn't wake up in the morning and decide to do this, and now they're in a recovery program and they're trying to get help and they want to be successful. And what can we do to make that happen? And
holy moly, I never thought. Here I am offering help that it may come across that I'm questioning your ability to take care of your child. I mean, you must have to be trained and walk a real fine line to where you're saying, look, don't feel bad about getting help from me. Because I can see after what you just said that some young, I mean, let's face it, the hormones are going crazy. Your life just changed, because anybody who's a parent, you know, if you ever ask them, do you remember life before babies? You know, it's like, no. You know, in a good way, I don't want to remember, but so much is changing, and then if you add a substance issue on top of it, that's going to be an incredible burden on a new mother.
Absolutely. And they have the power and the will to do it with the support systems, and that's our goal, you know, throughout, is to give them those supports, teach them, train them, and support them. What do you need? So if mom is going to an appointment or counseling or whatever, because the baby's still with us and she's got to leave, she knows
Baby's safe.
the baby's safe. The baby's with the snuggler, Mary. I know Mary. Mary and I talk. So she feels really good about the fact that Mary's going to snuggle my baby till I come back. I'm not leaving the baby in a loud nursery where the baby might cry and the nurse can't get to the baby right away.
Well, I mean, nurse has got a sick baby that needs attention, and
And a
an
fussy
annoyed
baby.
baby, a fussy baby,
Yeah,
you know, and you sit there and say, okay, you can't fault the nurse.
right.
You know, you got to stabilize.
Yep.
You know, so, I mean, I remember when my daughter was born, it was the first time I really welcomed my mother-in-law to come in and stay. You know, I was actually pleased when I saw her fly in on her broom, and she brought the flying monkeys with her, so we had extra help. You know, but for that couple weeks,
Yeah.
you know, there was something good that I mean, I'm an old man, I had no idea how to empathize with my wife and what she was going through. You know, you try and sit there and, you know, unfortunately, being a bit selfish, the only thing on my mind is baby. I want to hold the baby. But having somebody there that, and now the nurse will have a little extra time
Absolutely.
to spend with the mother.
And I want to follow up on something Rose had said. I was thinking before I came in, we talked about the training, that these volunteers go through a thorough training, but before that it is really selecting the right people, and we do look for that compassion and non-judgmental.
Let's start there. How many snugglers are there?
Right now we have 14. We have 7 people who come in regularly, and then we have a big group of on-call when there are needs
When
that
you
are
get the 3 babies?
in addition. Yes, yes. And we have a waiting list of about 56 people as well.
Really?
Yes, yeah. So
How
we're set
cool
with
is that?
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah.
So you've got a pool of 80, 14
Well, they're not
active.
Yeah, 14. The others haven't been trained or
Well, no,
interviewed.
but I'm
They're
just
on
saying,
a
you got a
waiting list.
pool.
Okay, pool, yes, yes.
So you've got
Yeah.
14 that are active. Okay, one of them moves. I'm one of the pool, so my number comes up. How do you pick me
So what
to go in the pool?
What we've done is we will Rose and I set up some group interviews, one person at a time, but interviewed several people. And then some people, the hours don't work. Some, you know, there's different reasons why it might not work for them, or when they find out more
One in the
about it.
morning, why wouldn't the hours
Yeah,
work?
and sometimes, and we've had a number of people go through the training and then say, you know, this isn't the right timing, or I thought I might want to do, but I'm
But-
not. So some people weed themselves out, others we
How do you
really,
pick? You know, there's 5 of us, want to go into the pool. How do you pick
I think
which
we
of the
looked at
5?
Experience, compassion.
What their motivation was for
yeah,
doing it,
yeah.
why did you want to do this? What, you know, kind of background do you have with children? You know, have you had your own personal experience with babies like this? What do you know about it? And it just came down to just once we got all those questions answered, sitting down and saying, okay, who's the right fit for this program? And, you know, Elaine and I would sit and go over all of the applicants and then, you know, make decisions on who we could start and maybe put, you know, we started out as a pilot, so it was small at first and then have grown again, and we're thinking of doing another training.
Well, what
to
kind of,
visit.
I mean,
In our first pilot, our first group, we had mostly nurses. I
Yeah.
think we had 8 nurses.
Really?
4 other people, yep.
Yeah.
And that was in part, I think, to help the staff. You know, we just looked at it. We didn't recruit. We you know, sort of pulled from that. And it helped with the development of the program, the nursing staff getting to know who the Snuggle Squad was and seeing them. And then as those nurses were no longer able to do it, it was a lot of new grad nurses. And as they got jobs, we had our second training and brought in other people.
Yeah.
And we will likely have another group start again in the fall.
so I come in and I talk to you, and, you know, you'd ask me, what experience do I have? None. I have 2 daughters, and I fight well for their time. When they were babies, I did well at getting my minutes with the baby. What other experience could you really?
Well, again, some people have been nurses and have
Oh,
worked in this
okay.
area. Some people have been in a Snuggle program somewhere else, maybe in a
Oh,
neonatal
okay.
intensive care unit. So that kind of background. But there are many of
Yeah.
the people who come from the corporate world and have no experience in that setting, but yet, what is their motivation? What is it
there?
there?
Echo that. Yeah,
Yeah.
the motivation and key of what, you know, what brings someone to do this.
Well, it
Is
seems,
part of.
what would be the biggest motivation? You hear babies hurting,
Yeah.
you know, and we'll go into that in a minute, but, okay, so I got picked.
Okay.
I'm in the pool.
Okay.
I'm waiting, and Len calls and says, somebody moved to Nebraska. It's your turn. Now what happens?
So what we do is have a group training, and it was about 5 hours of training given by the nurses in maternity, and then some hands-on practice of the diapering and feeding and holding, and then they mentor. They do a shift with an experienced Snuggle Squad volunteer, and then it would be scheduled in this shift. It would be either they have the one evening a week or the one morning.
Sorry to laugh, but when you say you're going to train him on diapering,
Yeah.
I remember when I got my grandson, the first thing my daughter had to do is, let me show you how to put on a diaper. And I laughed, because I said, thank God, Alexis, you're teaching me, because when you were born, we only ever bought one diaper. You wore it for years. It's not, we never changed a diaper. You know, it was just so funny because you were
Yeah.
so worried.
Yeah.
Of course.
Let me show you how to feed him. Okay, has it changed in the last
But
20-some
there are
years?
some differences because, and
There are.
maybe you can speak
Really?
because of the babies.
There are.
There's
Yeah.
things that they're watching for because
yeah.
the babies are recovering or.
Well, see, the
so they're
recovering I
looking-
can see.
So they're looking
But-
at the stool and the urine.
I was gonna say,
and
because
the-
we
how
fed
they
them,
feed, yeah.
they peed or pooped, and they slept, and they played. You know, it was like the 5 basic activities: feed them, let them pee, poop, sleep, and play. Okay, I can do that, but what is, you know, when you talk about surprises?
Well, I have children, but they're grown now. So when they said, okay, you'll have to change the baby, I think the first time I put the diaper on backwards. The nurse pointed that out to me. But all of a sudden, I'm like, I have this little person that I'm trying to change, and I was very nervous about, you know, getting the undershirt on correctly, and just the way that, you know, especially a baby that is an NAS baby, they have a lot more tremors.
Now, did you have
So
boys and girls?
I have a girl and a boy.
See, you had experience. I had girls. So the first time that I had to change my grandson's diaper, it's like, okay, I'm your grandfather. I'm probably going to be the one that pays for your college tuition. Do not aim at me, because we weren't used to having to worry
Yep,
about changing a boy.
right. And you forget about that over the years.
Yeah.
Well,
I learned
You
that
still
quick.
get tagged.
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
he was good. He never nailed me. And I think the college tuition got to him, and he said, okay, I'm not going to risk my tuition. It was very simple. So, I mean, to me, having a boy, this is the first boy in the house that we didn't want to poke at with a sharp stick. Because my whole life of having 2 girls, we didn't want the boys in the house anyway.
Yeah.
So you already had some experience on both
did.
sides.
I did, but it had been quite a while, so it was good to get a refresher course. Also, when Elaine mentioned that we have the swing, it's not like your typical baby swing. It's called the kangaroo. Is that what it's called?
Mamaroo.
The mamaroo.
Yeah.
And it actually swings this way, and the babies they really enjoy it. It's good for them to the way that it swings. It really
It's soothing.
soothing for them. So, you know, it's made for an infant. It's not like the regular swing that you bring home. But, yeah, and then now we have these new swaddler that you wrap them in, so they're nice and tight.
No, we had the
Never had
papoose.
this.
I used to call it the front. Drop my daughter in,
Yeah, yeah.
lock her in, and we're good for a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, this is like a blanket that you put on them, and they're nice and tight, so you can still hold them, but they feel more secure. And yeah, so there's nice things like that at Milford that help with the babies and just, you know, the way that you, like the first night I was there, the baby I had cried and cried and cried. I'm thinking, maybe I can't do this. But then watching the nurses, you learn that there's different ways to hold them and to, you know, not just rock them in the chair the regular way, but maybe like sway them
Yeah, we
this
had to
way.
walk around. Somehow my grandson decided, okay, you're way too comfortable. If you really want me to be happy, walk around.
Yeah.
So you had to
Yes.
walk and
Yeah.
wiggle and,
Right,
Yeah.
and if you stopped, it
but then he
all over
started
again.
growling
Exactly.
again, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But so I've learned some tricks over the past few months, and I'm a lot more confident, and you know, I know that this baby has had a tough life so far, and they just want to be held, and you just have to be patient with them, and that's what a snuggler needs is patience, and you know, you look forward to it. You look forward to having that baby in your arms and taking care of it and making sure that he or she is, you know, feels comfortable, and that's the best part of it.
So Doug, typical baby, exposed baby. Do you
You-
see differences?
Absolutely.
Do you feel differences?
In my experience, you know when you have an exposed baby.
How?
First of all, when you're told ahead of time. That is,
But if I didn't tell you, if I did a taste test and blindfolded you,
in my experience, yes. I mean, it's been 9 months that I've been a snuggler. And I would say, again, because there is a checklist that is actually there on the bassinet of symptoms that you might look for, you might identify when you're holding a NAS baby. So
Like?
Again, in my experience, the baby might be very, very quiet for a while and then would just burst out, in almost like in pain, like that. Your eyes may roll around and not be coordinated, very agitated. And again, in my experience, you do bring comfort to the baby just when you pick the baby up, when you sense that. I have found with the NAS babies, you would say, well, a 4-hour shift, holding a baby, what could that be? Well, it's like nothing I experienced. I helped raise my sister when I was very young, and I was there at the birth of my 3 children, was very involved in their upbringing. So there are no surprises in regard for the care that was needed. But you have to stay focused for that 4-hour shift when you're with an exposed baby, because it could be, the baby could be very quiet and all of a sudden go into this great irritation. You just feel for them when you see that. And you have an inclination to want to do something right away. And I have found when you hold them, as Mary said, when you hold them a certain way that you're taught, the baby will calm down. Maybe if you just hold them tight. And sometimes it's maybe like a mechanical thing. They need to be fed. They need to be changed. And you do all these things. But the work of it, I think, is focusing on that baby at the moment that something starts to bother him or her, and doing something about it. And you know it, even if you hadn't even seen the checklist of symptoms, you know that something isn't quite right. And that's where I think the benefit comes in for everybody involved, and it's also the challenge of the job.
Now, you have to admire the mom who's been exposed. But does it get to you sometimes when you want to look at them and say, how could you do this?
No, absolutely not.
See, that's wonderful, because
No.
anybody that does not so nice things to kids, I have a hard time. You know, I want to have empathy, I want, you know, but I don't know that I could make a clear, you'd never vocalize it, but I don't know that I wouldn't be thinking of saying, how could you do this to such a
Yeah, so
precious package?
I think that, and I would hope that a lot of people are starting to realize that this isn't something, it's an illness. It's an addiction that these parents get into for whatever reason. And I try to tell my staff or new people that we're training that they have a story to tell. They could have been an NAS baby when they were born. They have a long story to tell, and whatever it is, that's where they're here now, and we need to do what we can to support them and help them to get through this and to be a successful family. Part of the Snuggle Squad program came out of another program that we have at Milford that
far too long since I've been home. Been running all my life just